Today we're returning to one of my favorite games of 2025, Town to City. If you haven't played this one before, you're in for a treat. It's a cozy voxel art town builder where you found a 19th century Mediterranean village and decorate it to your heart's content. But don't let the aesthetic fool you. There are management and story elements that keep you wanting to build more and more in this game. The gameplay loop is fantastic, and since the last time I played in November, the game has received some seriously massive updates. These changes have turned it into an even more powerful outlet for releasing your creativity. The biggest changes include a brand new first-person mode, season-specific decorations for fall and winter, animals including livestock, wildlife, and even pets, tons of new props and buildings, power user features like disabling collision, undo and redo functionality, and a transformation gizmo that allows you to tweak a variety of assets in some really precise ways, bridges that come in 5 distinct varieties, and what's probably the most anticipated new feature, full landscape manipulation. That's right, you can now terraform until your heart's content, and add or remove water to create custom lakes, ponds, or rivers. And with all these additions, today feels like the perfect time to jump back into the game. So in this video, we'll continue to expand Belvau. I want to build a beautiful hilltop cathedral, modifying the terrain to create those perfect sightlines from the existing city, and create a space around it that feels grand. And we'll focus on blending that newly created space gracefully into the rest of our city. So sit back, relax, and let's build in Town to City. And if you're enjoying this series, hit the like button and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future episodes. And without further ado, let's jump right in. And here we are back in Belvau, and it feels good to be back, especially because the game has so many improvements. But before we do anything, I want to talk about our plan. Basically, I'm thinking that we are going to build the cathedral up here. Now, initially, I was planning on putting the cathedral up here, but it was going to be kind of a hike to get up here. I think that we can do something really special though now that we can terraform. I want to basically turn this into a rolling hill with some sort of a water feature all the way around the cathedral, and I want the cathedral to be on a mini hill with a bridge going to it. So we're going to be doing quite a lot. But to terraform, we have to gain access to the terraforming menu, and to gain access, we have to take a look at our research. And now under Hamlet, you can unlock terraforming for 250 research. So we're going to do that. Then we'll have to bank some research points to unlock our cathedral. We're a little bit shy right now. So while we're waiting, let's do some terraforming. The terraforming tools in this game are really unique. Not only can we modify empty terrain, we can also modify terrain where we have existing buildings. So this makes it really powerful, but also really dangerous. Thankfully, we also have undo tools. So let's say, for instance, I use the raise terrain tool and inadvertently raise the terrain underneath these buildings, and I'm not really satisfied with what we've done. I can undo it and bring it right back, or redo it and bring that back. So that is going to make everything that we do really flexible, which I really appreciate. So I'm going to begin by flattening the terrain, and I think I want to find a nice middle height, and I'll basically find the middle and then select it with the left mouse button. And to begin, I decided to step this back. There's more that we're going to do though. I want to begin by trying to make this area as gentle of a transition up here as possible. One of the things that's going to make this difficult is we've got some challenging terrain right here. So I am going to shrink up our brush size, and I think I'll leave the fall off where it is. Now I'm going to smooth the terrain, and I gain an extra option. Not only do I have fall off, but I also have strength and size. So I'm going to take the fall off way down so it's softer, but I want things to move quicker, so I'll turn the strength up. And because I'm feathering, I think I want to have a larger brush size. And then I'll just tap. And I like that what that's done to the path right here. It makes it feel really gentle and gradual. But for the hill, I'm going to need to take this and make it even larger, but not that large. It doesn't like that. Maybe something like that. And then I want to try to get the edge and flatten things out. I'm going to turn the fall off up. And I don't like what that's doing. You can see it's actually creating a bit of a ridge. So we'll stop that. That's much better. And the nice thing is we are blending this very nicely into our existing city. I am a little bit concerned though. Behind these buildings, it's really steep. We still have a hill there. I think I may want to lower things and try to take the height from over here and maybe have another block. And that looks pretty good to me. That looks very natural. And now when you're coming up from here and you look over, you have this gentle hill, not this steep cliff. I like that a ton more. But here's the thing. I don't know that I love this block being right here. I might want to actually pull this back and open up the view. So I'm going to relocate this building and pull it over here. Now we've got a couple of new options. If I hit K, I can demolish blocking decorations. So if I'm getting the buildings turning red, but I have K on, now instead of the building being blocked, it'll actually get rid of that tree. I like that a ton more. And with these changes, it feels like you could walk from this plaza right up to this hillside and it would feel nice and natural. And from a vista standpoint, you can imagine being able to look right up the hill at the cathedral. Beautiful. So now let's unlock it. And this will use most of our research points. And that's actually a bit unfortunate because we don't have enough money for this and we actually can't earn enough. And that's because we have to increase the size of our vault. That'll be 1,200 research points. We have about 600 right now. And while we're waiting for more, let's add some new families to these homes. Now, I'm not sure that I love that these two buildings side by side are both white. And in the past, the only way to change the color would be to replace the building. But thankfully, this has been resolved. All we have to do is select the building, and now we have a paintbrush right here. We can edit the building's color, and now I can make this one blue. So we have a little bit more variety right here. And you can do that with any of the buildings that allow you to recolor them. But beyond that, you could also change the train station if you'd like. So if you'd rather go back to something smaller, you can do that with the click of a button. I want the big one though. Let's continue building up this way. Now I feel like we have to bridge the gap in between our amusement park and this area right here. So let's soften the terrain a bit. And that was a mistake. I did not mean to flatten that whole area, but thankfully I can easily undo it and then pick the smooth terrain function that I actually wanted. And I think I'm going to try to grab the height right here. Just pull this one over. And now that should be much more blendable. That's great. And I think I'm going to, rather than cul-de-sacking this, try to have this meet up right here. And though I'm not 100% sure where the cathedral's going just yet, I know that we've got to modify this. So I'm going to go with a huge brush and smooth this out. And this water doesn't really make sense anymore, so I'm going to remove it. And then lastly, fix this path. I have broken it badly. And I'm noticing that turning the brush fall off down helps me fix some of the paths. If I turn it up and I'm smoothing, I'll end up breaking things like that. But again, easy fix. Just turn that fall off way, way down. Now, I've got to add a worker here to the shoemaker, and I think that this happened after I connected the road, so maybe this is able to serve more people now. That's not a bad thing. And I feel like that blends these areas nicely together, but there's still one more thing that we have to do to tie everything together. I'm going to clear this space and create a custom park. That is a nice space. Now, we're likely going to have to open this up a little bit to open up our vistas once we get our cathedral up there, which we're going to be able to do soon because we now have enough research points to be able to unlock our increased vault size, which will let us bank a ton more money and eventually purchase that cathedral. And we're not far away from that, so I'm just going to do one quick thing while we're waiting, add an employee here at our shoemaker, and move a few of these families in because we're going to need them to work at the cathedral. Speaking of which, We almost have enough money to build it. So let's get this thing placed. And this thing really is a thing of beauty, one of the best assets in the game. But we've got to find an even better location for it. This is good, but I want to have a water feature around it, and I think that we're too close to the road. So I'm going to bump this back to about here. And I want to make sure that we're not too close to the edge of the map. This should be good. Let's see how we can see this thing from down here. That's honestly not a bad view, though I think that this tree right here has got to go. And to balance it, I'll get rid of this one. And then I want to pull this over so that the entryway lines up with this path. I know it's being super extra, but it's worth it to me. And that is the view that I'm hoping to see. Wonderful. So now let's get this thing into an even better position. I'm going to raise the terrain underneath this, a fairly large brush size, and a whole bunch of strength. Now I'm going to level around here. Oh, I'm getting way too high. You know, there are certain tools that I can't recall if it's always been like this or if it's new. It feels like it's new to me. But for deleting, for instance, I can now hold and then delete multiple objects, and it makes it so easy to delete things. And then for placing objects, now that you can disable collision, it just makes it really easy to do basically everything. And you can really just unleash your creativity. I've been slipping into trances as I'm just doing all of this landscaping because it's so easy to do now and it's so much fun. Anyway, let's add some water around here. And I think as an homage to what used to be here, I'm going to keep this cliff right here looking a little bit rougher. I will taper things around the edge of this little island that we've created though, because I want this to feel nice and gentle, natural. Well, as natural as this can feel. Now I want to create a bridge to get over here, but I haven't unlocked those just yet. And there are a ton of different bridge options. We've got metal bridges right here. And early on, you can unlock wooden bridges and stone bridges. I think we'll start out with some stone bridges. And these are found underneath decorations, and now we have bridges. Now we've got this arched bridge and a flat bridge. I think I want to go for an arched bridge, and obviously I don't want to randomize. Look at the size of this thing though. If I went with one of these, this is massive. So let's go for something smaller. And this is almost the right size, a little bit too short. And this one's pretty darn good. But let's say we want to customize this thing further. We can use our transformation gizmo tool. And this thing is so cool. It allows you to basically take almost any prop in the game and modify its size. So the way that we're going to use this is to select the bridge. And there are a couple of different ways that you can use this. There are the internal gizmos and the external gizmos. The external ones will just kind of move things around. So if you want to move things left and right with a lot of precision, you can do that. It's telling you the number of meters from its original placement. Do know there is not an undo functionality here though. So if you make a change and you don't like it, you're kind of just stuck with it. So that's pretty good, but let's say I didn't want it to be so tall. That's what the internal gizmos are for. You can actually stretch assets and make them change and make them unique. So if I wanted this to be wider, I would use the green gizmo right here, the internal one, and I can make this thing a bit wider. If I wanted it to be longer, I'll use the red gizmo right here, and I can stretch this longer or shorter. If I want it to be less tall, right here, the blue gizmo. That is looking pretty darn good. And again, you can use this for anything that you want. And you can take this thing and move it around. But do know, the moment you do that, you lose your modifications. And the center gizmo will actually resize everything based on your customizations. But again, if you want to move this, you've got to do it from within the gizmo menu. And you can move this anywhere using the gizmos. I'm going to call that pretty good right there. Also, I didn't point these ones out. You can also rotate things. So if you wanted to tilt the bridge, you could do that. Now, where that is probably going to come in much more handy is not a bridge, but rather a tree. So if you wanted to tilt the tree, you could do that. Now, one other important thing to know about this, let's say you do use the gizmo tool on a tree and you make a custom arborvitae, you're not going to be able to clone this. If you clone it, you get that regular tree. So that is a limitation of the tool right now. But even with that limitation and those limitations that I spoke of, it's still incredibly flexible. Now, let's get this linked up to our roadway network. That is much better, all because I used the gizmos. That was not at all possible before. So now we'll get some workers here, and we need a lot of them. And it looks like we need 6 more. We'll get to that in a moment, but I want to fix the hill here. And that looks a ton better in my opinion, but I'll be honest, this was a lot of work. I'm still learning how to use these tools and it can be a little bit challenging from time to time. You've got to slow down and be willing to hit the undo button. It's there, take advantage of it. Now, one thing that I want to do is add a secondary access up here. And that's pretty nice. Now let's get some employees for this cathedral. We have some empty homes, so I'm just going to move some of these folks in. And with those families, we're fully working our cathedral, but we've had a couple of other buildings break down. Looks like this restaurant right here needs one more family. And they must be artisans. And here at the shoemaker, I have one artisan that doesn't need to be here. I'll add a townsfolk instead, and then add the artisan over here at the restaurant. Now, our other issue is that we don't have enough goods for this building. Looks like we're missing lavender and honey. And if we go into our economy menu and then take a look at our farming overview, we can see that we currently have 14 lavender available and 27 honey. And we need 40 of each. So let's head on over to Font Brock. Oh my goodness, and it feels good to be back here too. And there's a lot that I want to do here, but we're going to save that for the next one. All I want to do right now is make sure that I have enough lavender and enough honey. So before I went and did anything crazy like create a new farm, I just wanted to see if I could expand this one ever so slightly, and I've been able to add a decent amount of production just by filling in some gaps. Now, unfortunately, it looks like the granary can't transport to this building anymore because we need one more worker. That does the trick. Let's look at our economy menu one more time, and we now have enough beeswax. I guess that's beeswax and not honey. Now, for the lavender, we had that over here in these backyards behind these homes. I believe we did a bit of trickery. And basically, I realized that there's nothing preventing me from farming basically anywhere. So I will expand this just a bit. And then I might add some more production over here. Again, we need another worker at our granary. But my guess is this is enough. And indeed, we now have 71 available. So let's head back on over to Belvau. And interestingly, it looks like we have an issue over here at our Hatter. We'll add some workers. And then checking out our cathedral, we have the requirements. We have to select this so they get the crops. Now, the other interesting thing is I think we might be too far away from a warehouse. So I'll sneak a small warehouse in over here and then add a couple of laborers. And we are going to need some more once again. But with those two families in, we now have enough laborers for the warehouse, and our cathedral is connected. It's a thing of beauty. Or at least it could be if we decorated it a little bit more. So let's really jazz up this area. And I think that that is looking pretty darn good. So let's just make sure that we didn't block any of our views and get rid of that depth of field for just a moment. And that is a thing of beauty. Right from City Hall, you could look up and see that resting at the top of the hill. And it is just, it's a showpiece. You can imagine that the whole city was developed around this. And obviously that's not the way that we did it, but that's okay. We can imagine. But one thing that we don't have to imagine anymore is what it would feel like to be a citizen in our community, because we now have the first-person camera. So to get to that, we just have to go to photo mode and free walk. And this lets us walk around the town as the mayor, which is so cool. Now, by default, depth of field is turned off, and you're able to just walk around your city as the mayor. You can also jump by hitting the space bar, which is really fun, and then get a feel for how steep some of these areas are. Maybe we need to do a little bit more work, but this is town to city, and sometimes you just accept a little bit of imperfection. But there is something else that we can do that is so fun that I've got to show it to you. If you hit Alt to get your cursor back, you can toggle super jump. And this allows you to jump twice as high. And if you've wanted to be able to jump to the tops of buildings and then jump on roofs, now you can do it. You can see your church from a variety of angles, and the rest of your community as well. And it makes it really fun. It almost feels like I'm walking on the moon, like there's no gravity. It's so fun. So fun. And a really cool vantage point for viewing your city. And honestly, this entire mode being added is just a testament to what this dev team is doing. They're listening to people and they're adding the features that people are requesting. In fact, after this on the Discord, I noticed that they were soliciting ideas for the next update. They want to know what people want added to the game. Super, super cool way of developing a game. Now, I'm guessing some of you are thinking, what happened to respecting the topography? I know I've done a lot of terraforming. Part of that is because it's the shiny new feature, but the rest of it is because I feel like this game really rewards you for pushing the boundaries and trying new things. And these new tools reward you that much more. And when you are willing to do it, you can come up with some really interesting things. And considering that the default maps are limited right now, I feel like you really should terraform and see what you can come up with and try some new things. And that's what we've done today. We've placed this cathedral that, kind of reminds me a little bit of Princess Peach's castle, kind of reminds me of the Magic Kingdom. It just feels interesting. It feels unique. And it's something that we couldn't have created before this update. But there's so much more that we have to do. We have to introduce animals. We have to explore some of the new buildings. And honestly, there's a lot that we didn't touch before that I still want to incorporate into the community. And I'm interested in hearing from you. What would you like me to build next? I'm thinking animals, but if there's something else that you'd like me to pursue, let me know down in the comments below. But for today, I think that we're gonna leave it here. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I'm gonna thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and play Town to City, and for that, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.